You've probably heard of a certain game known as the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. But even if you have been living under a rock for 26 years, or you're just too young to have heard about it, I'd be willing to bet that you, yes you, watching this video, are the hero of time. No, not Link himself. I'm not saying that you have elf ears and you have to wear green and, carry around 7-year-old milk with you. I'm saying that you, whether you realize it or not, and yes, I am naming my character. I'm going to name Link you for this. But I'm saying that you, whether you realize it or not, carry a lot of the same traits and character that our courageous Link carries. Yes, hello you, wake up. My mission by the end of this video is to show you how in more ways than you know, you can probably relate with Link. And how whether or not you go fighting spider creatures and saving princesses and talking to trees with mustaches, that you too can learn to control and master time. And you can become the hero that you want to be. Now first things first, I want to make something clear. Well, two things actually. I know someone's going to ask in the comments, I am playing a PC mod called Ship of Harkonnen, or Ship of Harkinian. It allows Ocarina of Time to run in 4K 60 frames a second. It's not too hard to find online. You can do it if you want to. But I want to make something clear. Everyone has their own struggles in life. I'm sure that's not a newsflash to anyone. I'm not here to compare or, weigh those experiences. I know I have some struggles that some will relate to and others won't. Nobody's life is easy, and I recognize the amount of people who get the luxury of growing up in a home that's complete and full and fun. A healthy family where you can focus on school, your friends, other passions. I get that that's very limited. I'm not shaming you for that, if that is you. In fact, I'm actually really happy for you. That's awesome. But I think you can relate to this story as well. What I want everyone to do while watching is two things. One, keep track of all the similarities between Link and yourself. I would think that it might shock you, actually. The other is, after watching the video, maybe leave a comment talking about something that you related with, or you connected with. It can be multiple things. Now, I'm not asking for anything personal. You don't have to overshare. I just want you to be able to feel like your voice is heard and that you're seen. I try to do this with all my videos and all my viewers. I try to respond to every comment, even if there's a lot, because I want people to know that they have a voice on the channel, and just in general. Now, in Ocarina of Time, there are not one but two Links. Well, okay, they are technically the same person either way, but it's different storytelling, and gameplay can be a little bit different, and for the sake of this message, we're gonna just assume that they are two different people. Alright, so like I said, let's pretend that Adult Link and Young Link are two different people for this sake. They're both you, but they're two versions of you. Now, Young Link is one of the many who did not grow up in an ideal home situation. This should be obvious by the fact that he lives in a treehouse surrounded by fairies in a forest whose guardian is a tree. Silly stuff aside, he's plagued by nightmares, has no parents or family, and has only one real friend in Saria, or Saria, I guess, was the girl with the green hair that was trying to talk to us back at the treehouse. He gets bullied by those around him for not having a fairy, which I guess is the key to getting into the in crowd here in Kokiri Forest. And here we have the Great Deku Tree. Nice mustache. Reminds me a lot of the dad from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs with the mustache and the eyebrows. But right there, I'd imagine that many of you have already connected to something. Probably, or hopefully, maybe not about the tree or, the fairy stuff, but about growing up in a non-traditional home. Most young children out there growing up without a mother or father or both are often forced to, step up and be a man of the house or a woman of the house, often having to take care of siblings, housework, or even financial responsibilities much younger than they should be. They're still just kids. Dost thou have courage enough to undertake this task? If I say no, he's just gonna tell me to come back when I do. But all my oldest sibling people out there like me will feel this one hit close to home, I bet. And wouldn't you know it, Link is forced to do just that when, of course, the Great Deku Tree calls him to go inside of him, some guardian, and kill a bunch of evil monsters and spiders just to cure him. Guess what? Spoiler alert, he still dies anyway. But there's quite a bit to unpack there, and I'll kind of do it as I'm going about inside the Great Deku Tree. Just a heads up, I'm going to be cutting around to different parts in the game, Some parts might get a lot of coverage, some might get a few minutes, some might get nothing at all. Just depends on what works for the message. But for one, in the actual game, not counting the Ocarina of Time manga that is not canon, we don't really see much of the Great Deku Tree. We get a little glimpse of him at the beginning, talking to Navi, who we find out is Navi. Oh, and of course she has to butt in right as I say that, I guess, timed pretty well. Everyone loves Ocarina of Time for Navi. Everyone loves to be told to listen. But the Great Deku Tree, who's prevalent at the beginning of this game, and he's in a couple others, but we're kind of told and led to believe that he's supposed to be this wonderful, old, wise and knowledgeable guardian tree who looks after the Kokiri. But it's a load of crap. Complete and utter bull you-know-what. From what we see as Link, the Great Deku Tree doesn't really do anything for us. And yes, part of the mod too is that I put health bars. I streamed this a couple weeks ago when I played the entirety of the game in one sitting, and that was something I found to be kind of fun and helpful. But from what we see as Link, the Great Deku Tree doesn't do squat for us. He hides a major secret from us about our parents and what happened to them, and about us. Our first time encountering in the game, he asked us to do some dangerous task where Link, estimated to be around 10 years old in this game, yes, a 10-year-old child, is wielding a sword and fighting for his life. Why? Because we're guilt-tripped into believing that if we don't, we're letting him die. We're letting down these friends that we have that are making fun of us, apparently. Oh, also, and that if we don't do it, then we have no courage. Yeah, that's right. The Great Deku Tree basically was the first one to pull off the, oh, Link, you won't, no balls. He puts us in danger to protect himself, and then after we somehow survive, he dies anyways, and just leaves us with zero supervision, doesn't bother to tell us diddly squat about our family, nobody to look up to anymore, and, decides to send us on one last quest or errand right before he gets yeeted. Sorry, I know that was kind of a passionate rant there, but as someone who is getting to be a little bit older, not old, like, gosh, I just turned 24 last month, but, getting into that range where I could have a kid whenever I want to, I've found myself thinking more on how I would raise a child and how I could protect them from this dangerous world we live in. Don't get me wrong, the world can be a fun place to be, but I don't think anyone's denying the fact it can be a dangerous place as well. And I don't know about you, but one thing I absolutely despise, I like to people watch sometimes, and I don't try to judge, but sometimes it's just hard. But you know that whenever you're out in public and you see someone with their kid, and you think to yourself or your partner, man, I'm not going to do that as a parent, or, oh, I would never be like that. I can't believe they treat their child like that. And then there's the times where you just straight up know something is wrong, and it just kind of breaks your heart. And I promise you, I didn't mean to line that up when I got a recovery heart. I hate people putting their kids in danger or just straight up being negligent. For example, the other day I was at Walmart. I say the other day, this was a couple weeks ago, but it's stuck in my head since then. The other day I was at Walmart, and yes, fanfare for going to Walmart because, ooh. But actually, as I was coming out of Walmart, I noticed that when I was putting up my groceries and about to drive away, a couple spots down, there was a dad, it looked like, kind of younger to middle-aged dad, his daughter that actually looked about 10, and then I guess his girlfriend or partner that oddly looked kind of young for him, but that's how it goes sometimes. But regardless of that, I guess they forgot something in the store, and instead of just going back in to get it, it taking a couple minutes, no biggie, I guess he decided he would rather stay in the car and talk to this girl, and he decided to send the 10-year-old looking girl into Walmart by herself, across the parking lot, into the store to pay for it with the money he gave her, and get whatever it was. And I was just shocked. Like, it kind of broke my heart. To a lot of people, it might not seem like a big deal. It's like, okay, maybe you've done that before. In a perfect world, nothing happens. But just in the world we live in today, in 2024, like that probably wouldn't have been a big deal 10, 20 years ago. But in the society we live in, when people are kind of scary and dangerous, and when you see so much crap happening on social media, not just in places far away, like things can actually happen in your neighborhood. and in your area. Like, things happen like that all the time when you least expect it. Like, kidnappings are pretty common in today's society, especially at supermarkets late at night. Yeah, that's scary. And part of me wanted to say something. Also, I noticed that there is a rupee above my head. But anyways, part of me wanted me to say something. I wanted to go up to his window and be a tough guy and tell him off and tell him that, you know, he needs to be more responsible than that. And that's no way to treat your kid. Like, it literally takes a minute to go in with them and make sure they're safe. Or the daughter could have sat out in the car with the girl. But I also wasn't trying to get into a fight and get into trouble. And I also know enough to know that sometimes when you have people, especially kids or weaker people, being treated poorly, sometimes it's tough. It's a sticky situation, because when you think that you're doing something right and you think you're being the hero and you're saying something and making the situation better, oftentimes that can actually make it worse for the victim. And I don't know. Maybe that guy is mainly a good father. Maybe that's just one bad moment he had. But it just makes me think of, you know, all the people that don't get treated right like that. And you never know. I was really, as scared as I was for her, I was also scared, you know, if you said or did something, it's like, what power do I have? What can I really change in that moment? And what if it ends up like life at home gets worse for her? Because she definitely did not look like she was happy. And I kind of feel the same thing with the whole Great Deku Tree. Obviously a very different scenario, but just in the sense that he's kind of guilt-tripping Link, or gaslighting Link into helping him. Like, I'm your guardian, so you have to help, or you'll be on your own. You know, I'm your guardian, I told you so. And especially just if you're thinking about it in game mechanics, like, if you say no, the game doesn't let you progress. You can't do anything else. Like, you kind of have to do it. You don't really have a choice. You can't just leave towards Hyrule and go about the rest of your journey and, you know, go put your feet up. But like I was saying, it's sad. That's just not what protective, responsible guardians do. And I feel for anyone that had to go through something like that, or is going through something like that. Please take care of yourself and take the proper precautions if you are experiencing something like that. I think that goes without being said. But, you know, in the effort of trying to put a slightly more positive spin on things, just think about all the things and the good that gets done after the Great Deku Tree passes. I'm not saying that it's a good thing that he passed, but at no point did Link just decide... What the heck? At no point did Link just decide to, you know, put up the sword and shield and be like, you know what? The only person I ever knew as a guardian or parent figure they're gone. So no point in continuing my journey. No, if anything, it doesn't stop him in life. It's where his story kind of begins. And speaking from personal experience, when I have had the unfortunate experience of a loved one passing, it can seem like your whole life stops. But the sad part is that, well, the rest of the world keeps moving as if nothing happened. What I've found to help me in times like these are to think about what that person would say or think if they were in the room with me and they saw how I was reacting to everything that had happened. I don't know about you, but if something happened to me, I wouldn't want my loved ones moping around and kind of just spending their days being depressed. And I know that my loved ones wouldn't either. Also, here is the spider creature I was talking about. And you can actually make the fight a lot quicker with the sticks, oddly enough, but I only have one. But I know that when tough things happen like that and you lose people in life, the best thing you can do that would really make the person happy is just to keep going, keep moving forward, and just make yourself happy and make yourself not just temporary happiness, not taking shortcuts, but long-term happiness, being fulfilled and getting closer to your life's goals. Even if I can't find the strength to keep going for my own sake, I have to try to keep going for their sake, to make them proud. And that's exactly what Link does here. He's not saving the world because he's bored, or because he felt like it. He's not really even doing it for himself at all. He's doing it for the Great Deku Tree. You know, whether he's a good guardian or not, well, we can think whatever we want to, but Link obviously cared for him and looked up to him and respected him. You know, he's doing it for the Great Deku Tree. He's doing it for Saria or Saria. He's doing it for the people he cares about. Real courage is not fighting for yourself, but for others. And as the Great Deku Tree's saying right here, Link is verily demonstrating his courage. I know I've talked about some pretty deep stuff so far, so I'd like to take a little break to thank everyone watching. If you aren't already subscribed to the channel, it would mean a whole lot to me, as would a kind comment. I know I said earlier I try to respond to every comment, and it still stands. I'm just a person like you who loves the game, and I just want to try to work towards making myself and those around me happier in life. For the rest of young Link's journey, not much else happens outside of meeting Princess Zelda. This is notable, even though it's only for a brief moment. It's actually kind of interesting because it's one of the Zelda games where you don't actually interact with Zelda much at all in the game, technically. Even so, I think you can see a lot of their relationship bonding here. They're both the same age, drastically different upbringings, but both are forced to mature and act older than their age. And they sort of have to, well, grow up quicker than others. I think that allows them to connect because they both feel like adults. And they kind of both see each other as adults. Like a ton of the NPCs in the game make jokes and remarks about you being a kid and not allowed to be doing certain things or to be certain places. It kind of reminds me of those movies, you know, there's a young boy and girl and they're a little too adventurous for their own good and it gets them into trouble a lot of the times, but well, in the end, they actually end up saving the day for all the adults who initially made fun of the kids for being, well, kids. So you're going to notice that I have made a lot of progress on here. I've already beat the game. I'm playing on an old save file just so I can access areas quicker in the game for the sake of the video. But about halfway through the game, young Link collects the spiritual stones. He gets the Ocarina of Time and learns the Song of Time to pull out this famed Master Sword. And he goes to pull it out, and what happens? Well, a lot, actually. And I'm not going to cover it all now. I'm going to save a chunk for the end, because this part right here isn't just one of the most iconic moments in gaming history, but it's the foundation for the whole message I'm making. What I will say is that after pulling the Master Sword out of its pedestal, the powers that be decided, even after doing all that work, literally saving 3 different civilizations, or species, that he's too young. Sure, he did all the work, and everything that was asked of him, and even more. Sure, he was fighting monsters as a 10-year-old kid, while a literal soldier was standing around guarding pottery, and not really a great job at that. But, you know, he's too young. Sorry, gotta wait. How many times have you guys heard that story? Ever been passed on a job, or internship, or anything, just because you were too young? Now, not necessarily because of my age, but one of the moments like that that really sticks out to me, sorry for the scary yelling, that's just, you know, re-deads, gotta love them. But one of the moments that will always stick out to me in life is when I was in junior high. I loved football, that was my favorite sport, and I tried so hard. Let's be real, I was not an athletic kid. I was not built for sports. I really wanted to be, but I had a disability in my hands, so that kind of set me apart. I practiced my butt off every single day in practice, before and after, and I worked my butt off studying the playbook, just to make sure I could make the starting roster, only to be told I wasn't ready. Because of my disability, they were trying to, quote, protect me, as if me and my parents didn't knowingly sign me up for a contact sport. Like, duh, that's what I'm signing up for. Like, it's junior high football. It's not like it's the pros. It's not like I have these 275-pound middle linebackers coming at me. But it was heartbreaking and devastating. It led to me falling out of love with football for a brief time, which, you know, like I said, was my favorite sport, and it still is. But if you notice, Link, on the other hand, Link takes it on the chin. He could have gotten real pissed off and hit up the milk bar. Wait, that's Termina. Well, you get the picture. But no, he just goes out there and returns to his duties of saving the world. The game doesn't really highlight it enough, but get out of here. Get out of here. I'm done with you, Tektite. Oh, and I'm done with you, Boulder. But this part of the storytelling is crucial, and I think had they expanded on it before just sending him off to the next temple, which is the Forest Temple, by the way. I've just kind of already done it, so I'm wandering around. But I think had they done that, like maybe show Link kind of hesitant to just go back into the world-saving business after he did all that only to get betrayed. It could have helped Link relate even more so with the player. For the entire time that you're playing as adult Link, you're really just doing the same things as young Link, but in an adult body. If that sounds odd, well, that's because it is. But for those of you that have related so far, you'll understand exactly why. Oh, and I took a spill. In the game, you see Link literally transform over a couple minutes into an adult. So it's new and cool. But in real life, you don't really have a moment where, boom, you're an adult. I guess like when you turn 18, then yeah, sure, the law recognizes you as an adult. And when you turn 21, you can buy alcohol. Or, you know, maybe it's when you move out or graduate college, get married and have a kid. Well, no, I'd argue I still know people, even in their adult age, that are married with kids who aren't really grown up and they don't act like adults. Conversely, I knew people back in high school I always thought were older and mature, not in like a "hey, you want some cigarettes, kid" type of way, but just that they handled business like an adult. They spoke and reacted like an adult, and they knew when to be serious and when to have fun. The point at which you become an adult in real life seems to be a moving target, and sometimes nobody can really say when that is except for you or the people close to you that know you best. For people that became grown up at an early age, by the time you are like me and in your 20s or 30s, you may have already started to wonder when the fun part of being an adult kicks in, or if you passed your moment and maybe your best days are behind you. I know as a kid, I could not wait to be an adult. I was constantly imagining what I would look like, sound like, and be like, you know, when I could drive, when I was out of high school, or own my own home. And I'm still waiting to see what I look like when I own my own home. I don't know about you guys, but I always imagined myself... Oh, there's a heart piece. I always pictured myself in the exact same face, just a bigger body. Like, take an adult body, preferably like 6'5", maybe throw on like 50 more pounds than what I actually have, but give me my 10-year-old face, and in my head, that's what I thought I would look like. But now, I kind of have to be careful sometimes, or I can risk making myself really sad, just by thinking about all the things that I overlooked in life. You know, all the freedom that I didn't care about, just because I wanted to just be able to say I was older, in order to be taken seriously by other boring older adults in suits and midlife crisis, whose opinions don't matter diddy squat to me anymore now that I'm actually an adult. I know I'm gonna sound old and like a total boomer out there, but if you're watching this and you'd say you're not an adult yet, that's perfectly fine. In fact, enjoy it. Have fun. Don't be in a rush to grow up. You know what's waiting for you? Bills, work, stress, responsibilities. I'm not saying that to depress you and make you think, well, it only gets worse from here. No, it's actually the opposite. I think everyone that considers themselves an adult watching this video would agree that you can most certainly still have fun. Now, the fun comes from knowing when to have it and when to work. I think you get two groups of adults here, and this isn't really on my script, but it's something I feel like I needed to elaborate further on. I think sometimes just like you have children that are forced to kind of act older and grown up, a lot of times you get adults that act like kids, and I think sometimes that's because they never really got to have a true childhood, or maybe they're just trying to relive it because they weren't ready to move on. I think the stresses of being an adult sometimes span from when you become an adult, you get upset that you can't have fun, and that's not the case. It's just that you can't have fun 24/7, and I think that's pretty reasonable to expect. If you're working all the time, you're never going to have fun. If you're just trying to have fun all the time, well, you're not going to get that much done. Unless you're one of the people lucky enough to work in a field where you generally do have fun, and I'm happy for you. Like I said, that's something I really want. I'm really working towards that goal right now, to be able to work in a field that I love. You know, like I want to be a video editor, and so I'm doing YouTubing in the meantime, in the hopes that maybe I can do YouTubing full-time or become a video editor full-time. When you're an adult, you realize what's important and what isn't. It makes you appreciate the small things in life, and that's a pretty cliche statement, but you really don't get the bigger impact of it until you, well, have a situation where you do appreciate the small things. It's the difference between being a kid at Christmas and trying to count all your presents up to see who got the most, maybe between you and your siblings or you and your cousins, versus just being happy to have all your family members in the same room together at Christmas for the first time in 4 years, and just being happy that you got gifted a new package of socks because you're too lazy or too cheap to go buy them. And yes, sorry, that was me talking to me. As Adult Link, most of the temples and dungeons don't mean a whole lot to this message in particular, outside of, you know, maybe the water temple. Yeah, this one. No, please don't groan. We aren't going to talk about it in this video. There's way too much to talk about in this one. It deserves its own video, so that'll be a separate one, probably coming later this month. No, however, like previously stated, Adult Link gameplay is spent kind of doing the same things as Young Link, except now seeing your world has changed. It's not what it once was. This one personally hits way too hard. I moved about an hour away from my hometown almost a year ago or so, and now whenever I go back, like once or twice a month, it feels like the whole town has already changed. I can't make one trip there and back without a new Starbucks or Wendy's. Heck, my old favorite donut shop and movie gallery isn't even there anymore, and those things lasted forever. Sometimes it's a little deflating when your environment changes too quickly. Feels like those childhood moments you had are all in the past now. Like the world is changing, and as a result, you're forced to as well. Also, just a side note, what is it with Nintendo in the Nintendo 64 era with the long staircases with the red carpet? Like this one, Mario 64, they really wanted to make their final bosses seem scary by adding a really big stairwell. Except this one, I unfortunately cannot BLJ up, so no backwards long jumping. After a long adventure through time, Link finally defeats Ganondorf and saves Hyrule. And all is back to normal, right? Well, almost. At the end of the game, in what may be the most emotional moment of the game, Zelda tells Link that in order for everything to be truly back to normal, she has to take back the Ocarina of Time and put the Master Sword back in its pedestal. This creates a huge web of drama that also could have its own separate video, but the main point is that Adult Link is sent back in time to live the childhood he never properly got, and in doing so, is the only one who actually knows about and remembers what all he did as an adult. Except maybe Navi or Zelda, but even Zelda is going to have limited knowledge. In my opinion, this makes the Hero of Time honestly the most tragic story in any Zelda game. He risks his life for the world, loses 7 years of his life via the fast forward button, saves the world, and goes back to the past and thus has no tangible proof or evidence that he, a 10-year-old boy, saved the world. That freaking sucks. At first, it might sound nice that he gets to go back and have the childhood he didn't get. I'm sure a lot of us would wish and hope for that. But it's not that simple. You see, this loop that Link is in, it's incredibly sad. As a kid, he's forced to be an adult, do adult things, take on adult quests, and when it's time to actually be an adult, all you can think about is how you never got to finish being a kid. What happened to those people that you cared about and the things that you once knew as a kid? And of course, when it's finally time to go back to being a kid, well, what's the point? Back to being bullied and joked at for being a kid after you just saved the world? Your life experiences and memories and the way you see the world has now changed to where you'll never truly get to go back to being a kid. Being a kid or an adult is not about age. It's the mindset. It's the stress, or lack thereof, of responsibilities and what's expected of you. Young Link is an adult in a kid's body, and Adult Link is a child in an adult's body. I probably could have phrased that differently, but you get the point. The last thing I'll add will hopefully connect to another game I want to cover soon, Majora's Mask. At the end of the game, we see Link's fairy friend Navi, who's been with him through all of it, and is the only one other than Link who knows what he sacrificed. And Navi just kind of up and leaves him with no explanation. I don't know about y'all, but this, as an adult, is what I've been struggling with lately. I have lost friends as a kid, but losing friends as an adult just seems to cut deeper. And not just lose them, but also when they move out and don't live near you. My friends are all getting married, having kids, or just flat out moving away. I barely hang out with anyone other than my wife, and I love her to death, but being the anxiety-ridden introvert nerd that I am, I suck at making new friends. And that's one of the reasons why I love making YouTube videos. I just want to put myself out there and just be honest and be able to use video games to share what I'm going through because I know that there are others out there like me. Thank you to everyone that watched till the end. I hope this video meant something to you, whether you see yourself as one or not. I truly believe you all have the ability to be your own hero of time. If you've made it this far and you find yourself struggling to overcome fear and how to be courageous at times, then check out this video where I talked about how Luigi is the perfect example of how to do just that, especially if you're wanting to be a YouTuber, artist, or just anything creative.